Okay, so I'm starting the live just a few minutes early. Hi, gonna let some people trickle in before we officially start at 1 o'clock my time, 11 a.m. PST is when Noriko Ho will be joining us to chat about her awesome designs for lookbooks 13 and 15. So if you're joining me and you have no idea who I am, like I don't know what rock you've been under, my name's Hannah. I've been working with the By Hand Serial brand since issue 2, and that's about 5 years. And previously I was the production manager and coordinator for each issue, but now I am the editor-in-chief at By Hand Serial and the owner of the company. Now that Andrea has kind of departed to do her own thing for a while with her recent move to Maine. So if you're meeting me for the first time right now, welcome. In about 4 minutes, we're going to kick off the first of one of the many exciting lives that I've scheduled for you over the next few weeks with By Hand Serial designers and dyers and yarn manufacturers who contributed to lookbooks 13, 14, and 15, which represent the 5th cycle of By Hand Serial books, and the last cycle with Andrea as editor-in-chief. And so it's just a really special series of books, which we've just released these 3 in digital format, which is why cause for celebration. So if you are also taking a day off from Black Friday craziness and you're staying away from the stores and you're ignoring the sales emails in your inbox, then this is a great way to hang out for a little bit over your lunch break or over your morning coffee and just hang out with me and Noriko, who will be joining us here in a few minutes. So today on the show, I have a very special guest. Noriko Ho is a West Coast-based designer who's designed some pieces for Lookbooks 13 and Lookbook 15 in the last cycle. So those are our Northern California and Rhode Island issues respectively. So today we're going to be talking about her designs, the inspiration behind those designs, and just about her process and what brings her excitement. So I'm going to go ahead and invite her in. Let's see. And she is ready, which, she's not even due for a few minutes. So once we get her in here, and we'll ask all kinds of questions. And for those of you who've already joined, I'm super excited to have you here. Welcome. All right, so the invitation's sent, and we should see Noriko pretty quickly here in the chat with us. And just so you guys know, we've got a lot of these scheduled coming up. I have one with Mary Jean Packer and Katrina Raquel, who are both Hudson Valley-based designers, on Monday. So if you don't already have that on your schedule, it would be 5:30 Central Time on Monday, 6:30 Pacific Time. Eastern. Sorry, got a little bit of that post-Thanksgiving sleepiness going on. Oh, thank you for your comment on the hat. Yes, this hat is from my first book, which is Slow Knitting, and it's designed by Pam Allen using a Untitled yarn that has like a half alpaca kind of content. I really love the color of this hat, and a lot of people have knit it since. It's probably the most popular garment that was knit from that book. So it's fun to wear it today. I'm wearing it today because it's pretty chilly here in Tennessee. It's only 44 degrees Fahrenheit, which is really cold for Tennessee. Not so much for the Northeast or the northern part of the state, or anyone in Canada is like, oh, no big deal. But for us in Tennessee and in the southern states, 44 degrees is really chilly and not bad for Black Friday. So if you're hanging out with us to get away from all of the craziness of the sales emails and all of the craziness of the stores, and you're just hiding out at home, that is what I'm doing today. I have a day of making planned ahead for me, and just can't wait to chat with Noriko about her awesome patterns. And here she is. Hey, welcome.
Oh,
And for those of you who are just joining us now, this is Noriko Ho. She's a designer. Did I say your last name right?
mhm.
Okay, she's the designer that we featured for some patterns in Lookbook 13, our Northern California issue, and Lookbook 15, our Rhode Island issue. She's so nice. We asked her twice. And I'm so glad to have you here with us today.
Yeah,
Are you also like hiding out and staying away from all the sales and staying away from all the outdoor craziness? Because that's what I'm doing.
yeah. I was just talking to my partner yesterday about how glad I was that I read that Target decided to stay closed all day Thanksgiving
Oh,
permanently. I was just like, oh my gosh, it's so nice to see a big corporation do something like that because seriously, it depresses me how, I don't know, just how many times you read about the horrors of that
yeah, the
evening.
midnight,
Yeah.
everybody shows up at midnight and they rush the doors and the
Mm.
employees are just
Yeah.
overwhelmed. Like it just seems, I worked retail for a long, long time and I never had to work Black Friday. Somehow, miraculously, I never worked a
Oh,
Black Friday and I was so, so glad.
I've worked only one actual like retail job, and thankfully it was in a small business, actually a local yarn store. So
Ah, it
it,
doesn't sound too
it
bad.
was never going to be that type of situation. But yeah, I don't know that I've ever done any Black Friday stuff. Like I've definitely succumbed to doing some like, oh my gosh, I really needed this soap or something like that, and it
Mm-hmm.
happened to be on sale.
And you're like, oh,
But
I'll pick some up. Yeah.
yeah, going out and about, that intimidates me, especially as someone who just doesn't like crowds to begin with.
Yeah, I'm not into that at all. And we had to go buy and get, I think we were out of aluminum foil. And I was like,
Yeah.
we probably should get some aluminum foil, but I really don't want to go anywhere. So terrifying. And from the, okay, I'm going to try to read it. From the sofa of a fat knitter says, I worked the main holiday for the last decade in retail and it's scary. I believe it. So instead of doing that today, we are hanging out here. I'm in my home. Noriko is at home, right?
I
Yeah.
am.
And you live in Washington State?
Yeah, I do. I live in Seattle, actually. It is a very typical gray Seattle day. It feels like fall, though, which is nice.
That is
I
nice.
can't say I love it for the entire 6+ months that we have this type of weather, but it's nice in the fall. Yeah.
Yeah. I've only been to Washington a little bit, and I think I've only driven through Seattle one time. I got to go to
Mhm.
Tolt,
Okay.
Incarnation, and then
Yeah.
I was on Bainbridge Island for a while. We did a By Hand Serial Makers retreat a couple
Oh,
times there, and it was
fun.
so much fun.
Yeah.
We're hoping to do more in the future, but I love like that sort of raininess, but I don't think I could do it all the time. I love a
Yeah.
good rainy day, but I need to have lots of like bright sunny days in between for sure.
Yeah.
So
Um,
the reason I asked where you're located is I remember that when we first approached you to do this design for Lookbook 13, you said actually you had lived in the Bay Area
yeah.
in San Francisco area
Hmm.
um, for a while. And so it kind of resonated with you, this like issue about California. And for those of you who are not, who haven't seen that issue, the one that we're going to start out talking with is Lookbook 13, which is Northern California. And this one just came out in digital. So you can get it in print or digital in the entirety in our shop. Or we've also just reverted all of the rights for this cycle of issues to the designers so that you guys can publish your patterns independently. And so you just announced yesterday, I think it was, that Golden
Hmm.
Poppy, your design from this issue, is
Yeah.
now available in individual purchase. So if you've been holding out for this pattern in specific, you have the yarn for that pattern and you don't really need another book or another ebook, you can get just the pattern from Noriko now, which is always exciting. I always feel so good when we can just like it's kind of silly because
Yeah.
we just
It,
message you guys and we're like, hey, you can sell it by yourself now. Yay!
I definitely appreciate it also, because I know sometimes people want like just the one design, or
Mhm.
things like that. But on the flip side, I also love things in physical print form. So I appreciate that, you made this possible, really, to have my design in a print form.
I
And
love getting something in print. It's so special to have it on your shelf and be like, something of mine's in there. I have a pattern from the recent Vogue, the one with Michelle Obama on the cover. I have
oh,
a
oh, that's
pattern in that one,
pretty.
and I'm like,
Oh.
I have to buy every copy. I have to like buy a whole bunch of copies and have them. And it's just so that I can be like, yeah, I had this pattern, and Michelle Obama was on the cover. But these books are a little more indie than say
Mhm.
Vogue knitting. So if you're joining us from Noriko's channel and you aren't familiar with By Hand, basically it's this series where we travel to different communities kind of all around the world, and we interview makers in those communities and we highlight designs inspired by those places. And Noriko designed this gorgeous, gorgeous piece for Lookbook 13, which is the Northern California issue, and it's called Golden Poppy. So could you talk a little bit about your inspiration behind this piece and then about what makes it special? I think this mosaic pattern is really
Mhm.
super interesting.
Mhm. Um, so I grew up in the Bay Area. I was born in San Francisco and grew up, basically my entire well, I can't say that anymore. I think I still have more than half of my life was in California at this point in time. Um, but I spent my years from birth until I went to college, in Northern California. And so basically, the flower of California is the golden poppy. And when I was growing up, my grandma ended up in a nursing home pretty early on. She had a really bad stroke. We tried to have her live with us, but it was just too difficult. We had stairs, so helping her up and down the stairs just was impossible. So she ended up in a nursing home, and I visited her every single week with my mom, my brother, and my uncle. And my uncle would always try to make it a little bit fun for us. And so we'd pick up some food, and then go visit my grandma. And one of these times, um, we were dropping my uncle back off, and we stopped at a park, and he saw some golden poppies on the side. And in the state of California, if you see a golden poppy and it is uh, like in the wild, so not in your own yard, you're not allowed to pick them. It's actually a state law that you cannot pick them. They don't want, uh, I don't exactly know why, but you're just not allowed to. And so he told us this, and so we went on our ways. And then, as we got back into the car, he sneaked a golden poppy to me and my brother. So he broke the law, so called, for us, which was super sweet. And it was just one of those things where when you're little, this was so special that I remember just like clutching this. And as we drove home, it takes about half an hour. I fell asleep like little kids do. And when I woke up, I had accidentally pulled the petals off of the golden poppy that my uncle had broken the law for us for.
Oh no.
And I was terribly upset, like just like a little kid would be. But it was just one of those moments where, like, it was so strong a memory that it is still a very strong memory for me, despite the fact that I was maybe 8 years old or something like that. Um, so when I was approached by you guys, I knew that the golden poppy had to be in my design at some point. So the mosaic pattern there
Yeah, let
is
me grab a
supposed
photo.
to lightly represent the golden poppy itself. I worked with Chase from Black Squirrel Berkeley to get the yarn just a perfect like golden poppy feeling yarn. Both Chase and I love color, and so because of that, we knew we couldn't have just, a single color pattern. It was definitely going to always be two colors. And her design or the yarn is just so perfect for it. I love that both of them were speckled. Both of us love speckled yarns, or just uh, vibrant yarns, basically. And I especially loved the secret. So, if you are checking out or wanting the yarn itself, Chase threw in a little secret in there. The darker color actually has glow, or not glow in the dark, but black light reactive speckles in it, which I think fits in perfectly with like just our vibe, our theme, but
Yes.
still being subtle enough that, it's still a very like elegant design.
Yeah,
So
it was
yeah.
really the absolutely perfect marriage between kind of the by hand serial aesthetic and then what you do personally and what Chase at Black Squirrel Berkeley does personally, these really vibrant colors and playing with variegated and playing with speckle and playing with just a lot of fun, but
Mhm.
combined with sort of the muted toned palette that I presented you with.
Yes.
And I just love the interpretation. It was amazing. And then if some of our readers who were joining us might not have been around when that issue came out, but Chase actually did, I think, 4 or 5 different colorway pairings that were options
They were
for,
all gorgeous.
yeah, they were amazing. And every single one had like a black light reactive
Mhm.
surprise. So
So
I
fun.
just love that it kind of, in a way, captured sort of the parts of San Francisco culture that we didn't get into in this issue, which is like that whole underground, like party, rave, music, all the
Mhm.
fun stuff. But it was like quietly integrating it
Yeah.
into this one specific, really cool piece. And a lot of your work plays with um, sort of unexpectedly bright yarns.
Mhm.
So, could you talk a little bit about what draws you to really bright colors? Like, is it because they just make you happy to work with?
Yeah, I mean, I have always loved color. I will say that. Also from my childhood, I I loved my crayon box. I had that big crayon box that I don't know how many they have. They still have this exact same one. I
It's
saw
like
it
the
online.
100 or 120 or something.
Yeah, and it can even come in like a little collector's tin type of thing.
Yes.
The box is inside of it, so they just stick the box right inside of the tin. But
Huh.
my friends have this exact same one, and their kid is like 3 right now, and I was like, what? They still make this? So I would always organize them by like faded rainbow order. And it was probably one of my favorite activities. I would take the crayons out. I wouldn't use them because, truthfully, as far as it goes, I always hated the fact that it made the tips look all blunt and not fun.
But there's that
So I would,
sharpener at the back.
yeah,
It's exactly the same after that,
yeah,
right?
total, no. Um, so like I would pour them out and then I'd play with like trying to get them organized just perfectly. Same with pen sets and things like that. And honestly, one of my favorite color combinations from back then is still one of my favorite color combinations of now, which is to say um, like a pink, a teal, and then a lavender put
Mm.
together. It was very 90s. I can look at that now and be like, wow, that was a very 90s, like Saved by the Bell aesthetic, but
Mhm.
I still really, really like it. But I do enjoy like trying to push things a little bit and seeing what colors could go together that you may not necessarily put together. And most of the time, I would say it works out. And I always feel like, I don't know, this excitement or something when it works out so perfectly that that like they usually end up being my favorite item, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I love that. I feel like I see a lot of hot pink in your work. Like hot pink definitely makes an appearance.
Yes.
And these sort of like magenta purples.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of why when we started building out the color palette for Lookbook 15, which is the Rhode Island issue, and we were trying to think of a designer that could work with Jake Kenyon's yarns. He does is that Ken yarn is his Instagram handle, and he does so many bright, colorful, speckled yarns. So I was like, who could we work with that we know would be amazing for this? And immediately I thought of working with you for Lookbook 13. And so it's like, well, I'll just ask Noriko if she'd like to come back and do something else. And for that one, we had this blue in mind that I worked with Jake to kind of like, he developed it entirely, but I was like, I want a blue that feels like that cerulean blue crayon. Because for me, that was my favorite color in the crayon box as a kid, was like that crazy cerulean blue. And I wanted to make sure we had that in the issue. And so he did a speckle, two different speckles that went together. And you came up with Blue Hour, which is such a cool little comfortable tee with this slip stitch detail here in alternate colors and this ridged stripe pattern. So could you talk a little bit about developing this piece?
Yeah, I will say that as far as it goes, I do like having patterns that are accessible for people to be able to do, and for especially ones like this, I wanted to get out a tee that would be comfy and easy. I really was imagining, for Rhode Island, I just kept imagining almost that nautical look. And so I knew stripes would have to be involved in it. And yet it was also like, okay, but I don't want it to be too preppy looking. I don't want it to be like too traditional looking or anything like that. And so I went with that like kind of boxy feel. The By Hand Serial range goes is a full size range, so it goes up to a 62-inch bust.
Yeah, so we do 3, 4, 5. We have 9 sizes for this pattern. It goes from a women's extra small to what we call a 5XL, which is a 30-inch bust to a 62-inch bust, and that's to fit. So the actual chest circumference is 37.5 inches up to 69.5 inches, to answer the question in the comments. And for the golden poppy, I think that the size range is the same or very close.
Yeah. Pretty darn similar. And I design all my patterns at this point to fit someone who, with ease recommendations, who would be between a 32-inch chest to a 62-inch chest.
Yeah, this year we updated all the patterns in our current collection actually go up to an 8X. So they're a little bit bigger of a range even now than in issues necessarily. So the return to main collection has a little bit more size flexibility. This is something that's really important to me. I feel like it's just better if more people can make it. It's just better. And one of the things that I love about this particular pattern, the Blue Hour pattern, is that we got to name it. So we named it after the time of day when the sun is coming down. Right before it goes down, there's this hour, just like golden hour. There's the blue hour. And when you're somewhere where there's a lot of water, you get these amazing shots. And our photographer, Jen Bacos, got this shot that's included in the book. And it's just the most, this picture is just stunning.
and incredible. And it's a blue hour shot. It's the classic blue hour shot. And we were like, the pattern is blue. It's the perfect name for this tee. So that's where the name comes from. But one of the things that I was going to say I really love about this piece is just how few skeins you need to make each size. So what's awesome is that a lot of knitters have a couple skeins or 3 skeins of a superwash color in their, or fingering weight yarn in their stash. And you really only need 1 to 2 skeins of the darker color and 2 to 3 skeins of the lighter color to make this in almost any size. So, and you could even easily mix and match and do a fade for the background piece. That would be amazing. You could do alternating color stripes. You could do both at once, which would be incredible.
I have a friend who also did so the main color, and then did run out of main color yarn, and so in the end just finished it off with the contrast color as well, and it still looks really good that way too.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, there's
you
there's
could
a
add
lot
sleeves to this piece pretty
That's
easily
true.
too, right? You could do a full length or 3/4 sleeve. So there's a lot of versatility for the blue hour.
Yeah, and it was also really nice because while there is a lot of ease as pictured and as designed, but you could change the ease a little bit in it to suit your own personal opinions too, because I know that definitely varies, which is why often I design with some ease in mind, and the sizing will reflect that. But if you personally prefer a different amount of ease, I think that I wrote a note. If I didn't write a note in the pattern, I definitely wrote a note in my Instagram post to consider how deep the armhole is on the sizing, and you can definitely choose a different width and knit a different length for the armhole to alter that sizing a little bit for what ease you prefer. Yeah.
Yeah. And so this piece is in our Lookbook 15, which is Rhode Island. And I've just released these in digital, and soon you'll have this one available as an individual PDF as well. So if someone watching just wants to pick up the pattern, that's an option soon. Yeah.
Yeah, it's in, and I know it already went through tech editing. It always goes through tech editing for the magazine. But whenever I change things into my own formatting, I preferred getting it reread, because you never know when you've accidentally copy pasted something in the wrong place. And
the coffee milk recipe is in 15. Yes. To answer
so it's
a comment.
Yeah. It's in secondary tech editing to just double check I didn't mess anything up. And then it'll be out next week as well for individual pattern.
I'm so excited. And as soon as that comes out, you know, we'll post about it on our stories and let everyone know that that's available individually as well. I do have like a handful of 15 print books left. I would say I have about 30, which is really down to the last box kind of situation. But of 13, I have quite a few. So if Northern California is somewhere that people watching love, or Rhode Island is special to you, these make really good Christmas gifts. If you know somebody who is kind of like into traveling, but maybe they don't get to travel as much as they want, these are kind of like a way to travel without leaving your house. That's always the goal of every single issue of By Hand Serial.
And I do really like it because you can be a knitter, you can be a sewer, you can just enjoy looking at pretty books, honestly.
Definitely. And I'm excited to get to kind of make my mark on the next round and see what happens next with this series and where it's going.
That's super exciting. I was excited to hear that news. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
Mhm.
right now we're doing, we have this digital series, Return to Maine, that is all online, and you join month to month, and you get two patterns, one's knit and one's sewn every month, plus a really interesting story or article to read, written specifically for that series, a photo essay. So there's a lot in there. But I am hoping that with upcoming issues, we might be able to invite you back for a third time's a
Oh.
charm kind of design, because you've been just a joy to work with. So
Oh.
what's next for you? What are you working on right now that you can tell us about?
Yeah, so my Patreon people already know, but I am designing two sweaters next. And as far as that one goes, one is going to be based off of my Sailor Moon series.
I love that. You know, I'm a
um,
big Sailor Moon fan.
yeah,
We have
me
connected about this on
too.
in Instagram messages. My favorite Sailor Scout is Jupiter, probably. Who's your favorite Sailor Scout?
My favorite is Sailor Saturn. So it's an
She's
outer
so cool.
senshi. Out of the inner senshi, probably Sailor Venus. Although
I love her.
oddly, I like her better as Sailor V. I don't know why, but I really do. To the point where I nearly bought a pair of glasses that looked horrible on me, even like they were just
Just because
way
they
too
were kind of
big,
like it.
but they were red and they had little baby wings on the corner. And I was just like, they're so Sailor V glasses. Do I need these? And I was sitting there and I was like, I can't, I
Probably don't need
can't
them.
because I technically don't need glasses, even though I have a lot of them. Being a former optometrist means that I have a lot of glasses. um, but those I had to admit didn't look good enough, and so I put them away. But yeah, um, so I actually had my Patreon supporters vote on the next design and which
Oh,
Sailor
cool.
Scout will be next. So they already know. The other design is going to be a pullover that is going to be a little bit more gender neutral, you could say. It will be sized for me because I am my model. But I'm hoping that it will also fit my partner, and maybe he doesn't know this yet, but maybe I can take some photos of him as
He
well.
might model it for you.
Yeah.
That would be
Um,
fun.
so,
Yeah, I'm
yeah.
excited to see them. I always love seeing what you release next. I'm definitely not a bright color knitter, but I love to knit really bright colored, like patterns that have been introduced in a bright way. I like to take my
Mhm.
own spin on them and play with darker, moodier, neutral colors and see how they turn out. Hand spun is
Yeah.
always amazing replacement for any variegated or speckled yarn. Just like subbing a hand spun yarn in there is usually some kind of magic happening.
It's
So I have a lot of your pieces earmarked for eventual hand
um,
spun knits.
yay.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And I'm like thinking there is a piece that will be coming out pretty soon. It should have come out already, but unfortunately, I went to add photos to the pattern and realized that I left myself a tutorial to do, um, and forgot about that. So I better get to making that tutorial. Um, but I think this would be like that perfect thing to do the exact thing that you're talking about. The piece itself is really, really bright in two different colors. Pretty common for me to do something like that. Um, but I totally see it done in more muted colors, or even like because the way it's done, you'll see it's a cowl, and one side is more of kind of the underlayer side, and then the outer has a bit of a lace pattern to it so you can see the underlayer. So for me, I also really picture this with like a bright or variegated underneath that you keep hidden with this more muted lace pattern.
Ooh,
And so
I
you
can't
just be
wait to
able
see
to
this.
yeah.
You better get on that tutorial.
Yeah, I know. I was very frustrated at myself for forgetting to do that tutorial.
I can't even tell you how many things I need to film right now. I got myself like a fancy lamp to help me out, and
Ooh,
I'm hoping it will work for what I
yeah.
need it to work for. But yeah, I need to do so many tutorials, so my heart is with you on the tutorial front. Yeah, well, it has been an absolute joy to have you here. I don't want to take up too much time away from your family this weekend. I have a little baby and everything. So, thank you for joining us for just a little bit of time out of your very busy holiday weekend to talk about these two issues. So, for just to review before we wrap up, I'm going to definitely post this. So that those of you who are just popping in and maybe didn't catch the full interview will be able to see it again later. And I'm also going to try to upload it to YouTube and then put it on our blog so that people can find it there. We'll see how that goes. But today we had Noriko Ho join us. She's a designer based in Seattle, Washington, who created the Golden Poppy cardigan, which is a really, really nice fingering weight cardigan featuring a mosaic panel and 2 speckled colored yarns from Black Squirrel Berkeley. And that was part of Lookbook 13, Northern California, which is out in print and also digital. And now you can get the pattern as an individual PDF. And then she joined us again for Lookbook 15, Rhode Island, which again is in print and digital. And soon her pattern from this issue, which is called Blue Hour, and is this really adorable tee with kind of nautical inspired stripes and a slip stitch pattern. And again, using those speckled fun yarns that she loves to use. These ones are from Ken Yarn. This one will be out soon in digital format. It's just going through another round of tech editing. Just make sure it's perfect for you guys and easy to knit and fun to knit. And I hope to see lots of them out there in the world within the next year. That would be amazing to see more of that pattern. So thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah,
and
thanks for having
I'll
me.
get this posted. And this is just the first of several great designer interviews that we have about these 3 issues, cycle 5 issues, 13, 14, and 15, coming up in the next few weeks. I hope some of you might join us on Monday night when we have Mary Jean Packer and Katrina Raquel join us to talk about their work on Lookbook 14, which is the Hudson Valley issue. And until then, you can catch this again. If you're just joining us now, you'll be able to rewatch it in just a few minutes on our channel. So thank you so much, Noriko. It's always a joy to work with you. Bye.
Bye.